In a heartfelt 2020 interview with Apple Music, Justin Bieber cracked open the shell of his polished image and let the world glimpse the emotional weight he's been carrying for years. With tears in his eyes, he spoke about watching other men, artists like Mase, choose faith over fame, and how that decision mirrored his own journey. Mase, once a staple in Diddy's bad boy empire, stunned the world when he walked away from his career to pursue a life grounded in faith. For Justin, that story hit home. He wasn't just inspired, he saw a reflection of himself. Though from different generations and genres, both men face the same internal war. Keep playing a role in a system that chews you up, or walk away to reclaim your soul. Justin, who'd spent his youth surrounded by music executives and endless parties, knew all too well how the industry could twist love into control and praise into pressure. What looked like success was often a prison in disguise. Young stars like Usher, Craig Mack, and even Bieber himself were allegedly invited into a world that glamorized chaos, but according to many, hid something much darker. Reports from insiders and former associates have surfaced over the years, alleging that these weren't just Hollywood-style parties. Some claimed they were ritualistic in nature, revolving not around celebration, but submission. Stories whispered of manipulation, spiritual coercion, and even strange, unsettling acts that many believe crossed into the territory of abuse. Justin, like Mase and others, eventually found himself at a crossroads: stay in a toxic system or walk away, even if it meant rebuilding from scratch. For him, the escape hatch came in the form of faith. It wasn't a trendy religion for PR moment. This was about survival, and he's not alone. Craig Mack, another Bad Boy alum, famously turned to a controversial religious sect after walking away from the industry. 50 Cent has publicly drawn attention to what he calls the disturbing pattern among Diddy's former associates, many of whom either turned to religion or suffered tragic endings. G-Dep confessed to a crime and landed in prison. Biggie's death remains a mystery wrapped in conspiracy, and through it all, Diddy's name remains etched in the backdrop of these stories. Even Jaguar Wright, known for her blunt truths, once claimed she felt the spiritual darkness in Diddy's orbit. The allegations aren't just about business manipulation, they're about a deeper, more dangerous influence that left scars no amount of fame could heal. And at the heart of this tangled web is Bieber, a teenager who was catapulted into the public eye, surrounded by adults who saw dollar signs instead of a child. From private parties to unsettling mentorships, the rumors never stopped. Photos of a very young Justin at Diddy's home raised eyebrows. Promises of fame wrapped around questionable access and disturbing environments. And Justin, like so many others, paid the price. His public breakdowns weren't random. They were symptoms of a deeper unraveling. Run-ins with the law, addiction, and reckless behavior weren't just young celeb antics. They were cries for help from someone who'd been pushed too far, too fast. But somehow, he made it out. Slowly, painfully, and with intention, Justin began rebuilding his life. He stepped away from the toxicity, married Hailey Baldwin, found support in mentors and pastors, and dug deep into a faith that gave him back a sense of identity. He now speaks openly about how God became his lifeline, how Jesus pulled him out of the dirt, how he no longer wanted to perform for approval, but instead be led by purpose. Justin's message is clear. The industry nearly destroyed him, but he escaped, not because of fame or money, but because he turned back to the roots his mother planted in him long ago. Roots of faith. Even Hailey's father, Stephen Baldwin, recently asked for prayers for the couple, a quiet but pointed reminder that the battle for peace isn't over. Both Justin and Hailey have suffered serious health scares: his facial paralysis from Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, her brain blood clot, and through it all, their faith has been their anchor. Justin's early years in the industry have long been the subject of whispers, and now, with Diddy at the center of explosive allegations, those whispers are growing louder. His connection to Diddy and Hollywood's elite seemed harmless at first, just another young talent taken under the wing of powerful mentors. But hindsight has cast a darker shadow. Behind the scenes, rumors of predatory party scenes, exploitation, and psychological manipulation followed Diddy for years. While no charges have been confirmed, what's undeniable is the emotional wreckage left in the wake, especially in young stars like Justin. The impact of what he endured didn't fade with time or success. It followed him. Hailey Baldwin saw that brokenness early on. She didn't fall for the polished performer millions adored. She fell for the hurt, raw soul behind the fame. As Justin spiraled into substance abuse and erratic behavior, she didn't walk away. She didn't enable him either. Instead, she offered something that could truly heal: faith. For Haley, this wasn't just religion, it was rescue. She knew that only something as powerful as God's grace could mend the kind of damage Justin carried. Quietly, consistently, she stood by him, not with judgment, but with prayer. Her love and patience were a reminder that even shattered people can be rebuilt. Then, in a subtle but alarming move, Haley's father, Stephen Baldwin, shared a now-deleted Instagram post asking the public to pray for the couple. On the surface, it seemed simple, but the timing said otherwise. With Diddy under fire and the media digging deep into his past ties, Stephen's post felt like a discreet SOS. And honestly, it all makes sense. Justin wasn't just connected to Diddy, he grew up inside that world. As a teen, he was seen attending private events, mingling with industry titans, and being groomed by some of the most controversial names in music. At the time, it looked like mentorship. Now, in light of recent allegations, it feels much more sinister. Sources say Justin has been emotionally shaken, his spiritual stability rattled by the resurgence of these dark memories. For someone who spent years trying to heal and build a new life, the resurfacing of past trauma in public view is deeply triggering. That's likely why Stephen Baldwin chose to speak up, not for attention, but as a father who knows the signs when the pressure is too much to bear. He's seen it all before in the industry and probably sees what's happening to Justin now, behind closed doors. But Justin isn't alone. Many artists who came up under Diddy's wing have since come forward with stories that read more like horror films than music memoirs. One by one, they turned away from fame and toward faith, trying to escape something darker than fame's price tag. Mase, for instance, wasn't just another rapper who found God. He was among the first to walk away from Bad Boy Records at the peak of his career. He's hinted that what he witnessed behind the scenes wasn't just shady, it was spiritually toxic. Craig Mack disappeared after success and reportedly joined a fringe religious group before his untimely death. And Shine, once a rising star, spent nearly a decade in prison after a shooting involving Diddy. Afterward, he converted to Judaism, cutting ties with the music world that betrayed him. And then there's the disturbing talk of those infamous freak-offs, parties that insiders claim were more like cultic gatherings, full of manipulation and ritualistic undertones. There are even rumors, as wild as they sound, of animal sacrifices and occult ceremonies. Mase himself tried to sever ties publicly by confronting Diddy live on air with paperwork in 2009. Even after Diddy returned publishing rights in 2023, Mase made it clear this wasn't about music anymore, it was a spiritual battle. Justin now faces a similar reckoning. Everything he tried to bury is coming back, and as old wounds are reopened, he's leaning harder than ever into his faith, just like the others who managed to escape.